And we're live.
Welcome everybody. Hey, Capt Ron here with jet lagged, but other than that, in pretty good shape after well, I can't call it a whirlwind trip. Gee, many Christmas. We took 3 weeks, and I've been leaving the show for the last 3 weeks to my trusted cohorts there, Dieter and Eric and Diane. Must have tired the two of them out because only Dieter has maintained his religious participation here. But anyway, welcome to everybody. This is Clifford Takeoff or Fearless Flight Live that we do every week for people who are afraid to fly, or people who know somebody's afraid to fly, or people who just are interested in aviation and love to listen to our banter here. I mentioned Dieter, or Eric is not with us this week. He's doing some family and vacationing stuff, going back to where he used to live up in Iowa. And Diane, I think, is working again this week. And anyway, but we do have a special guest. And I was joking, I need to keep his identity secret because so many of you who knew that he took me on this trip with him want to find out who he is and if he's willing to take anybody else with him. But anyway, we have Michael Friedman coming on, and so I'm just going to invite Michael to come on board and join us here, and we're going to talk about this trip. Because he and I both need as short a show as possible. Otherwise, we're afraid that we might fall asleep here. We were just comparing notes about having a little jet lag about 48 hours or 24 hours after we got back there. So let's see. Oh, he's muted. I wonder if he can hear us. Oh, there he is. Hey, Michael.
Hey, guys.
Hey.
How are you?
Good, and thanks so much for coming on. This is. I mean, we just had a blast. You and I on the airplane, and I was, whoops, lost my mouse. Technical problems here, but I just want to, we'll just start by giving everybody a little bit of background. You and I have known each other. We're thinking it's got to be coming up on 10 years now. And on the one hand, I tell everybody it's bad for business because, you're still flying with me after 10 years. So it must not be working. But so how did we meet? Tell everybody just a little bit about what the circumstances were and why, what the deal's been with you and flying.
Well, I searched the internet because it was one of the things that really bothered me, that I couldn't fly without fear. And I really couldn't fly. I mean, because the fear kept me grounded, let's put it that way. So I searched the internet and somehow I found you. And it's been a real blessing. And I've learned a lot, listened to the audios, and it's just amazing. Time just keeps going by. And one of my goals was to get to the point where, we could do a long trip, and to Europe, to the Middle East. And we pulled it off. It was great. It was great. And conquered a lot of barriers that needed to be conquered.
Yeah, when you and I were reminiscing, 8 to 10 years ago when we first met, you came down, and my recollection of the first, I was actually flying. Wait a minute, let me think about this. Yeah. No, you know what? It had to be longer than that because I was actually on a trip. So it had to be before I retired. Oh my gosh. Well, I don't know. I mean, I remember I was in a hotel when you called me the first time I ever talked to you, and maybe it wasn't related to flying, but anyway. And I remember that, and you were contemplating. Your business was doing well, and you had a bunch of commitments. You were going back to the Midwest. I remember that, and you were bugged about the fact that there was a lot, weather and stuff. And I remember the first time all we did was talk, and you ended up flying to Phoenix and then flying to Albuquerque, I believe, and then you rented a car. And you got to tell that story because I remember that because you figured you weren't going to be able to fly a long distance, which is a lot. One of the things that a lot of people have issues with, it's one thing for them to fly on a shorter flight, but when they start thinking about adding length to that, it just freaks them out. So anyway, I go ahead and tell that if you remember it.
It's kind of a funny story because when you get in an airplane, to me, it's like getting into a metal tube, right? I mean, to some degree, and you're locked in, right? You can't get out.
Yeah.
And so I thought, maybe if I just did a short trip here and a short trip there, and then I drove the rest, it would be a lot safer. So I remember I flew to Phoenix. I changed planes, and I'm looking at studying maps of the United States, basically. And I realized, hey, I could land in Albuquerque, rent a car, and then just drive the rest of the way. It won't take me, too long. Well, it was a very long time, but
I think you were going to Kansas City, weren't you? Somewhere up in the Midwest. Yeah.
I was going to Kansas City. I had a job to do up there, and I thought, maybe safer for me to land in Albuquerque and just do the drive. And I'll never forget, it was one of the dumbest things I've done. I get to Oklahoma, and I'm at a gas station, and I hear this siren going off, and the weather was terrible. And apparently there was a what do they call those? Tornado.
Yeah.
That was within a mile from the gas station where I'm filling up. And I'm asking people next to me, what do I do? What do we do? Yeah. And everybody's like, just stay calm. And, there was nowhere to hide. But that was a really bad decision. I could have flown over it. I could have flown around it, but I decided to drive through it. Bad decision. But, looking back, back then it was really much harder to fly, and it's getting, every flight it's been getting easier every flight. Yeah. And
you basically have flown, I think, about once a year for the most part. COVID, you might have gone a little bit longer during COVID, but and we've flown. I know we've flown to Cabo. I've flown Vancouver, and Leon in Mexico, and then this year I remember you calling me up around the time that you normally would go to Cabo and said, "Hey, pack your bags, but we're not going to Cabo. We're going somewhere overseas." And not to spill the beans, but basically your kids are what, 16, 17, 15, 16, something like that.
16, 17.
And as a parent, let me tell you, you got to plug your ears right now, because I'm going to talk about what a great guy you are. This guy is my idol. He's shared with me. I mean, he's a great businessman. He's a great family man. He's got 2 awesome kids and an awesome wife. And I'm not talking about the Leave It to Beaver, that family that doesn't exist. Just a guy that really takes care of his family and does some special things. And I just have always admired you, Michael, and watch you do, and your perseverance in this. I remember one of the things I remember was you said that you had done the Tony Robbins fire walk a couple of times, I think, and this was like, again, like so many people, fear of flying for whatever reason is kind of like the last part of the basket to get, the bucket list to get over fears and anxiety. And I think it is just because it's got the least amount of control in it. You can't do that. And in what you shared about, it's not just the turbulence or things that bother people. It's the fact that when you get in that thing, you just can't get off it whenever you'd like to. So anyway, anyway. So this last trip was, you said, hey, I think we're gonna go to Europe and stuff, and so you invited me, which was, I tell people it's like I won a game show, for crying out loud. Paid my way to travel with you and with your family, and not only that, then you said, I don't want you to feel like you're stuck with my family all the time. So you allowed me to go around, and I'm going to have another guest on when I've actually made a side trip to Copenhagen from Tel Aviv down there, and it was a lady that I met back in September over the internet, similar to the way I met you, and she said, "I'm terrified to fly," and I told her an anecdotal story about the last time I was in Denmark was 52 years ago, and I was trying to find relatives, and that was totally a disaster. And she said, "You get over here and I'll help you find your relatives." And I said, "If I do that, I'll fly with you." And so we took a side trip from Copenhagen. But anyway, so let's just talk about the experience for you. You mentioned being locked up kind of claustrophobic in the thing. And then the other thing was turbulence, pretty much, wasn't it? And so what, when you're flying, because from the outside, you're one of the most well-managed images that I've ever seen. And that's not unusual. People are convinced that everybody can see how miserable they are, but it doesn't show. And I can't remember a time. I could tell when I'm talking to you, that your mind is occupied on the turbulence, stuff like that. But what's it like for you, when up until this last one?
I'm gonna walk over here for just a little bit to get a little
okay.
A little quieter. But it's you were talking about the Tony Robbins Walk on Fire, and I'm a little bit OCD. Sorry, I'm gonna land over here. I'm a little bit OCD where I did that 8 times. And
holy cow.
Yeah. So I make a list of 10 things I want to accomplish.
Yeah.
But I've never been able to get over the fear of flying.
Yeah.
And it makes me very upset because it's been a challenge to get to that point. And I think I'm finally having that breakthrough. But it's taken a long time. But there were a couple things that I think that really helped. I think that the wanting to do the trip overpowered the fear of the trip.
Yeah.
If you really, really want something, and I really wanted to go to Europe, that was really important to me. And
I talk to people about the why is what really helps people get through this. And you got to have a big why, because fear flying is one of the biggest blocks for a lot of people.
Right.
And that my perception was that was the case with you. So on the flight, the first thing, of course, is you booked us in premium class on Air France, and I thought it was interesting. If I remember right, you wanted to pick airlines that were non-US. What was that about? You remember that?
Yeah. I guess my mom. I defer to my 82-year-old mother, who says the European airlines are amazing. You should try them, and so.
Yeah.
I think you and I have been on American, on Southwest, on everything, but we really haven't tried a European airline. So I thought it'd be pretty cool to try Air France. It's something different, something new, and it was a great flight. Very, actually, for me, they're never enjoyable, but that was enjoyable. And being comfortable on the plane, I think, is really, really important, whether it's an aisle seat or a window seat, or, whether it's extra leg room. I think that if you're comfortable, it helps a lot. It helps me a lot.
And my recollection was, that the comfort, it's not, we had the seats where you can actually lay down in them, and they're configured first of all, they were wide-bodied airplanes, and we'll talk about the last leg on LL. That was actually the best. I mean, we couldn't have finished with much more of a flourish on that, but Air France, in the premium seats, you actually can lay down. But to me, it's not just the fact that you can lay down and sleep in a little bit more prone or natural position, but it's the space around you as well. You don't have the seat right in front of you in your face. And I would recommend, I've been joking with a lot of people, first class is always, better in first class, but seriously, for people, if whether you have a fear of flying or not, but particularly if you're afraid to fly, if you can afford it, if you can swing anyway to do at least the upgraded economy, where they have, you're still in regular seats, but they recline more typically. But man, if you can find your way to do the premium class, it's worth it. Wouldn't you say? It's just, you just don't, your mind just isn't locked into the short seats and the sitting there for a long period of time, because it was 11 hours over from LA to Paris, and then the return flight was just over 14 hours coming back. That's a long time. Yeah,
it's a long time. The comfort is very, very important, and no matter what your budget is, if you can get into an exit seat or somewhere with a little extra leg room, whatever you can do.
Yeah. Yeah.
If you're a nervous flyer like me, whatever
Yeah.
you can do to be more comfortable, totally worth it.
Yeah.
And we were really blessed. And I think hopefully you got a lot of sleep. I know I got more sleep than I thought I was going to get. So,
Yeah.
but
Yeah.
yeah, it
Going
was.
when you were going over, do you remember, did you notice the anxiety that you normally do when we got into Air France there? Or, I don't remember it as much, but I do remember you having, at least expressing a little bit about it.
Yeah, well, I think with me is that I get nervous a few weeks before the flight,
Yeah.
and it affects me. I mean, it affects. It's a little bit embarrassing, but everything from if I eat dinner, maybe I'll skip a meal because I'm getting ready to fly and I'm nervous, to
Yeah.
whether I've got to use the bathroom more often because I'm nervous. I mean,
Yeah.
there's physical discomfort as well as mental discomfort when you have anxiety of flying. But I think what I did is I tried to put that out of my head, and it didn't really come into play until I got to the airport and
Yeah.
said, "Wow, we're really doing this thing." And then
Yeah.
I was, I was nervous when we were in the airport. Um,
Yeah.
but again, the leverage for me was knowing that in 10, 11 hours, we're going to see the Eiffel Tower. We're going to be able to do things that I haven't been able to do. That was very important, and being comfortable was important. And it was a great flight. Really enjoyed your company, and I'm hoping that maybe the next flight we'll go do running of the bulls or something great. So make sure you get on the treadmill because you gotta
I forgot
run
about
faster.
that. I'm gonna show people talking about this in just a minute. I remember you were telling me you were serious about going to the running of the bulls. That was a thing, and then that didn't pan out because what was it you found out was like the hotel rooms would have been like in the 20,000s range or something like that.
It was ridiculous.
Yeah.
I mean, we should go to like somebody that raises bulls and just run in their backyard or something because that
Yeah.
was
Exactly. Yeah.
that was crazy.
Yeah. And just another kudo to you. Your kids, of course, they're getting to that level, that age where parents aren't as cool as they were before, and all that. And you allowed each one of them to take their best friend with them, and they were two delightful kids, Caitlin and Carter. And they were a lot of fun to get to know as well. But I've just put up on the screen here for anybody who's watching the show here. This is what I did, and Michael and I you had side trips that you flew from Rome to Venice, or Paris to Venice, right?
Paris to Venice,
And
and
then back to Rome.
Venice
We
to
met up
Rome.
again in Rome, and then
Yeah.
you flew from Tel Aviv to a airport in southern Israel, if I remember right. Yeah.
A lot. Yeah, that was
Yeah.
an interesting flight. Yeah.
Yeah, I just thought I'd put up there for that. As much as I love the traveling and all that, this really was kind of a research trip for me. Because of working with you and then working with the client up in Copenhagen. So anyway, this is what I did. I went from LA to Paris to Rome to Tel Aviv. And then we took the side trip up to Copenhagen. I forgot to put in there. The day I flew out of Copenhagen, we flew from Copenhagen to Zagreb, Croatia, back through Warsaw, Poland, and back to Copenhagen. So that was another day of flying for me. It was another 2,000 miles, basically, and another about 8 hours of flying time. So you take this total on there. I had 26,519 miles. It was really about 30,000 miles almost, and it was about 48 hours of flying time. I never worked that hard when I was working, and not only that, it didn't count the time in the airport. It was interesting, and we'll touch on that a little bit, and then we'll see if Dieter's got anybody with any questions out there. But it was really, and we were the three of us, Dieter and Michael and I, were talking about the trip around the world is 24,000 miles. So I had the equivalent in 3 weeks of flying around the world, and so it was a real milestone for me, and I'll always be grateful for you letting me do that, or taking me with you. It was just amazing. amazing opportunity. But when security and stuff, any thoughts about that? You know, comparing that to the U.S. versus, you know, what it was like over there.
I think security was good. I think that the airports were immensely crowded.
Yeah. Oh my God, that was unbelievable. Yeah.
I mean, you're really lucky to get. I mean, we were really lucky. There were so many flight cancellations around the world and so
Yeah.
many problems at airports. I mean, I think we were really blessed, really,
Totally. Yeah.
I mean, we only out of the whole thing, we lost one bag. Oh well, you know. I mean, like,
Yeah.
it was like, you know, I mean, out of, I think I was on 6 air flights, and we made every one, and everything just came together. It was really lucky, very lucky.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. That's the big comment I had. I thought that the security was, particularly when we got to France and Rome, I thought it was a little bit more diligent actually than in the U.S. They were still doing the thing where you're supposed to put your liquids in a separate plastic bag and all that. I never did that. I managed to skate through there, but and then of course I've always known that El Al, or in Israel in particular, their security is tighter and all that. But it wasn't significantly different, except that when we landed there and the lady that was through passport control, when she realized that I was only going to be there for 24 hours and then leave and then come back, she was more interested in what the hell I was doing over there to come in there and leave the next day. And I was a little intimidated, to be honest with you. So anyway, Dieter, if you got any questions or something, you know, feel free to bring them out there. The one thing I'll say, I want to say at the end of this, Michael, is that people out there are looking and they say, well, he's not as bad as I am, you know. And what would you say to people like that? Because that is the one thing that people keep telling me. Well, yeah, you know, I know he says he's afraid to fly and stuff like that, but he can't be as bad off as I am. What do you say? Yeah.
I mean, to be honest, to be really honest, I'm one of the worst flyers. I mean, and it's taken me a long time to get to this point. But I was just like everybody else. I mean, if you remember that flight that I went with you from Phoenix to Burbank,
right? First time we flew. Yeah.
Yeah, and you know, I think the repetition of flying, feeling comfortable, looking at it in a different perspective and having the leverage of wanting it so bad really makes it right. But I was the guy, remember, I'm the guy that drove through a tornado because I didn't want to fly around
exactly.
It, right? So, I mean, I 2 hours was my limit. That's all I could do. You know, now I think we've had a big breakthrough, and you know, I think we've come a long way, and I say we because I couldn't have done it without you, and I appreciate it.
Yeah, I know you say that, but you know, I always feel like a fifth wheel when I'm flying with you. But seriously, the last leg, I could really tell, or it seemed to me from the outside, because you didn't even skip the meal, man. You know, as a pilot, I eat everything. You know, they offer food, I'm eating it. You know, but you went right to sleep, and you know, and I think you said to me, you know, you thought you slept like 9 hours or so, like that. And I had a sense that it really was different on the last leg coming home. We rode on El Al for anybody out there, and it was on a 787. That's the second time I've been on a 787. It's just a really, really, really nice airplane. We had a similar the premium seats in there with the lie down and all that, and more entertainment that you can ever use. Geez, they get headphones and all that stuff. They really pamper you, and the crew really nice. I thought the flight attendants very, very attentive, as were most of them. Certainly on Air France and to El Al and going back. But my observation of you coming back, you were really like anybody who's flown routinely. Just didn't seem to, you didn't seem to have any of those moments and stuff like you would have before, where I can look in your eyes and see there's nobody home, because you're thinking about the turbulence and all that. But kudos to you for hanging in there. And I think that's one of the best things, the most inspirational things for people that might be watching is you're living proof that if you want it bad enough and you stay with it, you can get to the point where it's not an event. And so congratulations and again, thanks for all the stuff. Anybody got any questions, Dieter, that are relevant?
No, not direct questions, but there are some pretty amazing breakthroughs. Tracy Solis, she's actually watching the show from an airplane. She's flying as we speak. I think she just had to put it into airplane mode just about now, but there was a great conversation going on. So congratulations, Tracy. And then also congratulations to Lauren. She just purchased her tickets and she's going with her family in November to Disneyland, which is super cool. And kind of like around that same vein, both Tracy and Lauren, they did the Cleared for Takeoff 201 online course, and it really kind of brought it into concise. And what I kind of got, listening to Michael and you, Ron, is in a way, everything that's in the course is really what you taught Michael on these different legs, and it's kind of come to this place where it has enough of a foothold in you, Michael, where now you can draw on that as a resource for yourself, which is really cool. And I'm really excited. So congratulations to you.
And the time over which you and I have known each other, Michael, I mean, I've really evolved myself, because it's people like you that had taught me what it is, what works and what doesn't work, and people got gypped 35 years ago because I didn't know what the hell I was doing. I mean, I just listened to them, talked to them, and when they said it helped, but I really know now it's the focus. You got to have a big why, and somehow you've got to get your confidence up and be able to control your attention, because where your attention is the boss of your brain, and where it goes, your emotions flow. And there's no substitute for being able to regain control over your attention and go back to being normal, because that's the difference between somebody who's afraid and somebody who's not. It's what they're thinking about and what's going through their mind. So I don't know about you, Michael, but I'm ready to quit for the day. And again, thanks for coming on. Any closing words or words of wisdom for anybody out there that's afraid to fly?
I think the only thing I would say, I pretty much said everything, but is if you got to go somewhere, if you got to go to LA, you got to go to New York, put something really fun on that trip. Make that leverage really count where you're like, wow, I'm going to go to Disneyland. So this flight is worth it. You got to really dig deep and enjoy, and finds whether it's a great restaurant, a great show, anything that it might be, because the leverage really, really helps. And Ron, I can't thank you enough. It's been an amazing, amazing journey. And I feel almost I feel free. I mean, I feel like I want to do another trip. I mean, and I never thought I'd be that guy that would say that, but it was that good. It was that good.
Yeah, no tornadoes. We had a little hot weather over there, but other than that, no tornadoes. So anyway, thanks, Michael. I have just totally enjoyed meeting you and meeting your family and everything, and it was a blast. So thanks from the bottom of my heart, and thanks, Dieter, for sticking there, hanging in there with me. And this is we'll end the show tonight, and tune in next week for another edition of Fearless Flight Live. Thanks, everybody. Have a great